Hello, everybody. Welcome to Everything in Poderation, because sometimes the internet can be too much money and very expensive. I'm Robert Scarpanito, and I am fungible.
I'm Daily Wilhelm, and my contract address is 0xBFB69420, many more numbers and letters.
That sounds like the random person's place you go to with like, hey, bro, what's the Wi-Fi password? And it's they never changed it from when they got their router. So it's just an assortment of characters. Hi, I'm Colin, and I'm a fungi. I'm a mushroom.
You're a fungible token.
Yeah, it's a fungible token. Hey, dude, seriously, the logo should be a mushroom. Can it please?
I guess so. This week, we're going to talk about NFTs and ownership. You might kind of be familiar with it already because it's been covered a lot in the tech world. Our plans aren't really to get into the technical nitty gritty because, it's blockchain and shit and that, whatever. But I think there's a lot of ramifications for what NFTs could mean for the average person. And that's the crazy stuff that I think is more interesting to dive into as the internet just becomes more and more part of an ingrained part of our lives.
Yes, and to be fair, you can punch in what is an NFT into YouTube or Google or whatever, and you could probably find a lot of people that are a lot smarter and can explain it a lot better than at least I know I could. So, yeah.
And we'll give you a primer too. But before we do, I want to read this email that we got from Samantha from across the pond, which I can assume is the UK, but we have ponds on all sides.
I'm going to assume it's...
We live right next to the sound people. That's
it's that one.
Yeah. Oh, so she just lives on Bainbridge Island. Okay. That's near Seattle. # Seattle stuff, I guess.
Or Bainbridge or Orcas. There's a lot of islands around here.
Mm-hmm. But Samantha had some thoughts about our teleworking episode that I thought were pretty interesting, and I'll just get right into it. So she says, it was really interesting to hear your experiences and perspectives on teleworking from the US. I'm from the UK. Okay, so that answers that. And like Robert, have been working from home since the pandemic reached us last March. I'm also a, quote, white collar worker. I'm a researcher in the education field, normally desk-based in an office, and have been lucky enough to be reasonably comfortable working from home for an extended period of time. However, a lot of my colleagues have also really struggled to make their work from home setups work this year, and those with limited space and who work more collaboratively have found things very difficult. Your final thoughts in the podcast episode particularly resonated with me. My workplace is one of many in the UK that have been extremely reluctant to innovate and make proper use of technology to facilitate working from home. There's been significant pressure to go back to full-time office working at various points throughout the last year, even when it was unsafe, in part due to our government's push to, quote, return to normal. Our government has portrayed work from home as a privilege, which it very much is for those who can do so comfortably, and as a, quote, holiday for those too soft or lazy to work, which is totally wrong. As I think you mentioned, many of us have been working harder than ever before, in part due to less downtime between meetings, in office kitchens, discussions around or across desks, and etc. Unfortunately, many workplaces like mine have used that attitude as an excuse to tell us we are being inefficient, and that if we're not sat in an office 9 to 5 p.m. every day under the watchful eye of senior management, then we must be DOSing. I think that's a UK thing.
DOSing.
I assume. Okay. Okay, yeah, we're gonna Google this.
Let's Urban Dictionary DOSing. I'm good. Guesses.
Is this like is it, Samantha, is this like some Bob's your uncle type shit?
I think it's probably just like faffing off, just doing whatever.
Sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Bob's your uncle is like my favorite thing.
He dossed down on a friend's floor for the night.
Oh, so it's sleeping.
Sleeping, straight up, just snoozing.
Okay. I doubt. Oh, I guess it'd be like dozing in a. Maybe.
We like our Z's, or as you might call them, Zeds.
Zeds. Yeah. Wait. I thought that was a Canadian thing, or is that UK too?
Yep.
America's
they
really
inherited
the only,
it.
Yeah.
We are the only ones that are like Z.
Yeah. Whereas they around the world are big fans of that League of Legends champion, Zed. Mm-hmm. And back to Samantha, I doubt many will allow work from home or even flexible working post-pandemic, though more forward-thinking offices in larger cities like London may well do. Moving away from working in offices full-time will undoubtedly affect city and town centers permanently. They already have over here, as many high street shops have had to close down in the past year. However, I think it would be a great opportunity to completely change the nature of city centers. Instead of usual chain stores in every town, local authorities could encourage co-working offices, cafes, community spaces, information and education centers, services for children and young people, libraries, and independent shops to open up. A move away from having traffic choke and polluted town centers would benefit the environment of those that would still live and work in urban areas as well. Anyway, I could go on and on about this, but I'll stop here. Thanks again for the podcast episode and for all the others you've done so far. They've been the highlight of the past few weeks here. It's made UK lockdown number 3 or 300. Who knows at this point? Time means nothing anymore. Just that little bit easier to cope with. Stay safe. Thank you so much, Samantha. That means a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Oh
that was really nice of you, Samantha. And definitely share your sentiment and like changing town centers and what we can do with them, and kind of offering more things like libraries, locally owned businesses, education centers, things like that. That would be great.
I miss a library.
Seattle, I know Seattle specifically. At least I don't really go downtown much ever since the pandemic, but we definitely had a lot of
downtown.
I know, but we definitely had a lot of like corporate owned shops, and I mean, of course, Amazon owns like half of downtown up towards like South Lake Union and all that stuff. So a lot of it is like a lot of chain stores and big corporate businesses. I mean, you think Macy's or Nike or American Eagle, Vans, blah blah blah, all outlet shops and stuff like that. So it would be cool and interesting to see that change. I remember seeing that there was a stat saying that I think ever since the pandemic, carbon emissions in Seattle alone have dropped like 30% or more.
Yeah.
So because less people are driving. So that's great.
Surprisingly, today's discussion has also to do with the environment and impacting it. And I had no idea before doing research for this subject that it would have anything to do with like real world repercussions in that sense.
Yeah, it didn't occur to me either until after I watched a video on it. Corridor Crew, to be precise. They did a great video on it.
Shout out to that small independent creator, Corridor Crew. You know, I'm glad that we can shine a light on them.
Yeah, like they definitely need our shout outs, but
I think there in some ways I'm glad that we're reading out the teleworking episode or teleworking email on this episode, because I think it's kind of two things that have been exacerbated by this pandemic, right? Teleworking obviously has changed the landscape of what work could mean, and then the pandemic was like, let's make that a little faster so the change happens more aggressively. But you do still see that backlash, right? Like apparently in the UK, that return to normalcy that sentiment's very strong in the government. I think I would say the same in America, but we did spend the past 4 years, not believing in the pandemic because that's a hoax or whatever. So it's always been normal here, of course.
Always. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Never changed.
Yeah. But then NFTs are like another technology thing that honestly, I'm willing to bet the pandemic has helped it blossom to where it is, because a lot of people are at home and bored and need something to throw money at.
So throw that in with GME and
really.
Bob's your uncle.
There it is.
He did it. I do remember actually seeing like an article, and I think it might have been posted to r/not the Onion, but it was like, rich people don't know what to do with their money. They can't go shopping. What are they supposed to do?
Yeah.
Well, they can get NFTs apparently.
All right, so let's.
Oh my gosh, the upstairs neighbors are vacuuming.
Oh, are they? Awesome. It'll be nice.
I apologize if you guys hear that on your end.
It's nice background noise. Actually, wait. Let's bring it down. Let's be an ASMR podcast. Let the buzz.
I don't even know. Will the recording pick that up?
I don't know. Anyway,
vacuuming noises.
So let's start from the beginning. What are non-fungible tokens? I'm curious because I think we've all done our own independent research. I want to throw the ball at Daly first. How would you describe a non-fungible token?
So, when you go to Chuck E. Cheese and you get the tokens, and then that's how you play the games instead of with regular quarters. No, so the way I understand it, it's essentially using the blockchain to assign not necessarily like a serial number, but some kind of identification to a digital product. And it's like, that's it. That's the only one. And once it is minted, then it has value. that's where I get a little more misty as far as like what the official definition is.
Colin, how would you describe an NFT?
Yeah. So full disclosure, like I've listened and watched explanations several times and I still don't fully understand it, but from what I can glean, it's essentially like having a digital deed to something, digital ownership, or like digital pink slip if you want to talk about Fast and the Furious. And basically you own something. Does that mean you have the creative rights to something? No, but you own it. And you can say that, you know, hey, look, I have essentially the theoretical papers to prove that I am the owner of said thing. There are many copies like it, but this is mine.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's the key part of NFTs that most people, I would say, should understand, is that it's about ownership. You can get into the nitty gritty of like, how does it work and what is the blockchain and why is Nyan Cat involved, which someone has bought Nyan Cat via NFT. But I think getting into that nitty gritty isn't as important as understanding how it could change, for example, the art world, but also the world, period. Like everything, right? So I think let's use an example to kind of help explore what it is. So Beeple, he is a digital artist. He's been around for over a decade creating digital art. And it was only recently that he sold off his everyday collection, which was like a collage of 5,000 works from across his career, for $69 million. Nice.
Ooh.
No more vacuuming. Don't know if
Nice.
you guys can do that.
And he did it via non-fungible tokens, right? So obviously a digital piece of art, you know, you could be reductive and call it a JPEG. I doubt he's selling literal JPEGs. At the very least, it's probably like lossless files or maybe something else, right? But
it's PNG.
Yeah, it's a bitmap image actually. It's vectors maybe. But no, so it's you know, an image, a JPEG. It's a file that you could copy paste if you wanted to, right? Or move into folders, whatever. But he isn't selling you the file necessarily. He's selling you a token. Imagine like a Bitcoin, but it's assigned to you, like to your credentials. And that token says that you own the token that is tied to the art, right?
Yeah.
The reason it can be a little tricky to wrap your head around is because if you imagine like the Mona Lisa, right? Like obviously nowadays we could take a picture of the Mona Lisa or scan it and then we have the JPEG and you just copy paste and email it to your friends and be like, hey, look, the Mona Lisa, isn't it pretty? But if you wanted to buy the Mona Lisa, there is only one like physical canvas that exists with the original Mona Lisa painted upon it, right?
Right.
So the concept of ownership is literally tied to holding the thing and carrying it and hanging it. And, you know, it's really easy to wrap your head around that. But when it's just a token, it's like, I don't know. It's hard to imagine feeling a real sense of pride in owning it.
Right. I think that's why this like boggles my mind, is because I think part of the beauty of the internet, and this isn't to say like just steal shit off of Pinterest, just steal people's art off of Pinterest or whatever, but some of the beauty is that there's the files are forever and they can be copied again and again forever, and all of us can have the same Naruto background without having to have had the means to buy that Naruto background. I don't know. It's just so wild to me, like digital art being sold in that way, which isn't to say that like having someone make something for you, commissioning an artist. I think that's a different discussion, and that makes more sense.
Yeah. To me, I think the most interesting possible evolution to come out of this is in the world of video games, because of course video games are my fucking passion. So this recent release of consoles, both of which and I'm referring to the PS5 and the new Xbox, both of which had SKUs that were digital only. You could only download games on those consoles from their own digital marketplaces. Now, when you download these games, you are given a license to then download and play said games. However, you do not own these games.
Yeah.
And so that basically means that at any given moment, those games could be pulled, right? Like those games could be delisted from the marketplace. Cyberpunk, for instance, on PS4 delisted from the marketplace. You cannot download that game on your PS4. God forbid you have a PS5 that you can't put physical dicks in.
All right. We all caught that.
As
Exactly.
opposed to a PS5 where you can't.
We can't put your dick in if it's small enough. Yeah. But anything's a vagina if you try hard enough and believe in yourself.
Yeah, let's keep going down that rabbit hole.
Yep, let's keep going.
A rabbit hole can be. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Point being, like, you're shit out of luck, you know, if you didn't buy it early on, like day one, because you're not going to be able to download that game. So I wonder if that means that with NFTs coming along, there's going to be, some sort of petition or evolution or like revolution when it comes to like, hey, we should be allowed to own a copy of that game. Like have an NFT that says we own that copy of that game. And so we should be allowed to keep it no matter what. You know what I'm saying? Because like, for instance, if you go back to the old school days of physical media, when you buy a copy of, I don't know, a cartridge of Super Mario World for your Super Nintendo, as long as that cartridge works, you own that game. It's not going anywhere. No one can take it from you unless they steal it. You know what I'm saying? Nobody can come along legally and be like, hey, we're reprimanding this copy of this game from you. Unless there's some agreement that I missed somewhere. But yeah. So like to get back to something like that where you can actually own these games in perpetuity, that I think that's the way that, like, one of the ways that this can evolve.
Mm-hmm. See, I think that's where it gets tricky, is extrapolating what NFTs could be used for versus what they are already used for, right?
Right.
Because what they're used for primarily right now is crypto art, right? I think that's the most visible usage of it that is making a lot of the news headlines, right? It's art like Beeple selling all of his collection, or it's like antiquities, like Jack Dorsey's first tweet, which again, the person who bought that
an
thing,
antiquity.
yeah, I mean, it's it's museum shit, right? Like things that you would put in the Smithsonian because it belongs in the museum. Someone bought Jack Dorsey's first tweet. Excuse me. Someone bought a token saying this token represents Jack Dorsey's first tweet for $3 million. You can still go to Jack Dorsey's Twitter account and scroll long enough to see it yourself if you wanted to. So
right.
Why, right?
But
why?
They own it.
They own it. Well, sort of, right? And that's the thing, is that with NFTs, they can only really exist when enough people, enough of a community agrees that it has value. I mean, that's inherently how currency works. Dollars, a physical dollar bill is pointless, right? But it has power because here in America, and much like many other countries in the world where they use whatever currencies they do, the government, the people, the banks all agree this dollar has the value of $1 and you can use it to buy a Hershey's chocolate bar.
Yeah.
And it's no longer backed by gold, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. In previous centuries, we had everything backed by gold, which makes sense because culturally we have almost all cultures have valued gold to the point of understanding that this can be used as currency. But now it's just we have the paper money without anything behind it other than the ideology that this is $1 and I can buy my Hershey's bar.
Mm-hmm. And it's just funny that that's kind of how NFTs work too. It's just like on a much larger scale, right?
Right.
And that's why there are like some gatekeepers and people who keep things in check. So you can't just like mint a token for literally anything, but you can mint a token for a lot of stuff so far. Like how the like the NBA, or they're selling like highlight reels. They're selling clips of people doing basketball good, and again, you could probably just YouTube a lot of these, and...
But will you own it?
Does that matter?
No. To some people, apparently.
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, but it's all inherently built on a structure, right, of electronic devices, right? Like, all of these things are digitally distributed. If there was some like mass EMP or something like that and our entire infrastructure was taken out, like a lot of those records also be lost too, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, theoretically, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Or like even something simple, like what if Jack decided to delete that tweet from his account? How does that work? Is there an agreement there?
That is something I don't, I guess, understand as far as like putting the value on tweets or things that I guess are a little more ephemeral than a piece of art or a video game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm confused about, like, I saw a question in a YouTube video that I was watching about NFTs, and it was like, can you NFT someone's entire like Twitter account or someone's entire Facebook account or Instagram or whatever? And it's like, someone's gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
I could see that being a thing.
I mean, an NFT is essentially like a very unique key, right? And so it's a thing that says, I, Robert, own this token, right? And it can be validated through the blockchain that just says, hey, this NFT does belong to Robert, right? So whenever I hold the thing, I can prove that whatever thing it's connected to is mine, right?
Yeah.
So my question is, when it comes to video games, is functionally, how is that different from a license? When you buy a game via Steam, you get a license. It is attached to your Steam account. The license says, functionally speaking, Robert's Steam account owns that game, right? And at any point in time, the publisher or developer of that game can say, actually, that license is meaningless now. So you don't have access to the game anymore, right? So how would replacing a license with an NFT, which again, through magic technology, can prove that it's mine, how is that gonna necessarily prove to the publisher and developer, you can't take it away from me anymore? Because they could still say, cool, you own that token. We're not giving you Cyberpunk anymore.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would imagine it has to do with something legally binding. And the thing with digital games specifically, right, is logistically, it would be as long as the servers are running and allow you to download said game unless you have the game already downloaded and saved somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, another thing is if you have a game that can be played offline and you have it downloaded, if you cut that thing off from the internet, there's nothing stopping you from continuously playing that game. You essentially, by all means, own that thing.
Unless it's an online game, as in like a game that has to always be connected to the internet.
Right. So
would you be able to, if you had an NFT of a game, would this, and if that became the popular mode of digital ownership, would that mean that there would be an open market on like, hey, I'm going to sell my NFT of The Witcher 3 because I'm done with it?
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
I mean, beyond that, I think it would open up that concept of sharing games digitally. You remember back in the day when your friend came over to play Mario Kart and you were like, hey, would you like to play Mario Kart in your place? I can give you this cartridge or disc or whatever. You can take it home to your GameCube and play it there, but just give it back to me, please. Okay. And then they never did. Fuck you, Timmy. You can
Timmy.
do the same. You can do the
Calling
same.
you out years later.
You can do the same with NFTs, right? You can transfer the NFT and say, okay, this token that represents my ownership of Mario Kart, I'm now giving it to you. Please give it back to me, Timmy. But you can have it for now to play.
Well, in a sense, you can kind of already do that. Like you just give someone the login to your account on whatever console it is, and that gives them access to all of your downloaded games. And that's not an unpopular thing to do. I mean, like PlayStation, you can just be like, hey, make my friend's PlayStation my primary PlayStation, and then they can play all of my games on their console, essentially, with their account even.
Right.
Yeah. So,
but the difference here is that I can't say, okay, my Steam license for City Skylines, can I transfer it temporarily to Colin's Steam account? Right. I can't do that. But hypothetically with NFTs, that could be possible.
I don't know if, I mean, the problem with that is there's no monetary motivation to do that, because essentially they'd be losing money, because the business model there is they want you to buy more copies of the game. That way they make more money.
Rather than sharing is caring.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, lest we forget, as much as I'm applauding Microsoft nowadays for how gamer friendly and consumer friendly they are, remember the Xbox One initially was trying to kill the concept of sharing video games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was a really strong war going on for the used video game market there.
Mm-hmm. So I think this just kind of gets into that feeling of ownership, right? Because that's what NFTs are trying to recapture. Because like we've established, when it's something physical, right, you can say, I own this, right? Like I own this phone in my hand because it is mine. I keep it in my pocket, on my desk, charge it with my cable, in my room, in my house, etc. You know, like you feel like you own it. Whereas an app, you download it. Do you really own it? Not really. You know,
No.
You just use it. But now with this NFT, it's trying to capture that feeling of you can't hold that art. You can't touch it. You can't lick it. But you have a token that says you own it. And something I want to ask you two is, does that do anything for you? Does that move the needle? Do you like give a shit?
Well, once you mentioned licking, yes, absolutely. No, genuinely.
No.
I can see where this maybe had some of its ideological beginnings in the idea of like adoptables. Which, to give you a micro rundown, is basically like an artist makes like maybe like fake Pokemon designs or like fake Care Bear designs or like creatures that are within the same species, and then people bid to adopt those and have ownership of that, and then they can make art of that design without being called out or being problematic. And I can see like some good vibes there where it's like, this is my original character now. I bought it from this artist that I really like. But as far as like gifs and sports highlights, doesn't move the needle for me.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't for me either, but I just don't really understand then when you do own the NFT, this is the part I really don't understand, is that so, because I think in the video with Beeple, he was saying that even though he sold that, he still gets 10% of the royalties, right? Of a lot of stuff that, because if it ever gets sold off again, he gets the royalties from that. And so like, how does that work logistically then? Because if you own that thing, does that then give you the rights to distribute copies of said thing or license it out? And then you make money that way.
See, I don't think that's the case, because my understanding is most NFTs are the artist would still own the art. They own the copyright to the art. The person who owns the token just owns the token. The token just happens to be connected and uniquely identified to that really nice art.
So you can sell multiple NFTs of one thing, one piece of art.
No.
Yes?
I don't
know.
I mean, I guess you could, but then that would inherently devalue the art, right? Because now it's not unique. It's not special. Right. It's not like there's no like Mona Lisa wouldn't be great if there was also Mona Lisa 2 and 3 and 4, right? Like
Yeah. If every museum had a copy made by Da Vinci himself. Mm-hmm. I think maybe that's some of the clout, is that like the idea of the work put into it by specific artist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But what really sucks. Oh, go ahead.
I was just wondering, is it like kind of similar to like you own serial number 1 of a product, basically? I wonder if it's kind of like that. I don't know. I feel like in my brain I'm just kind of going in circles, because I feel I understand some situations where this would be applicable, but there's other situations where I'm like, this doesn't make any fucking sense to me.
Yeah, it's kind of the average person. I don't see this applying very often to.
No, this is a lot of money being thrown around, is what it is.
Yeah. See, I'm of two minds of it, and on one, I really like the concept of NFTs. And I think it's fascinating, but it's also a great way to answer some of the questions that many artists have when it comes to how their stuff is distributed online. Because previous to this, if you're a digital artist, you tweet a JPEG and like that's your art, and it can be retweeted, shared, people can download it and then post it on Reddit and repost it on Twitter. And there's a point where it doesn't really feel like your art anymore. Just it maybe has your signature on the bottom right corner, but like it's beyond
if that
you.
hasn't been cropped out already. Yeah.
Right. So it can easily get beyond your station, and it's really hard for you to make money off of it. And the primary way to do it now is like commissions, right? Like people can see your body of work and be like, I like that. I want to ask you to draw something new for me, and I'll buy that, right? But even when you buy that, again, that JPEG can be copy pasted, reposted, et cetera, right? Unless you save it to your special furry folder just for you, which, respect to the furries. And that's something that like Kings of Leon, musicians, right? Kings of Leon is selling, they sold NFTs of their newest album, right? Which that gives you digital ownership. That's like a digital CD. It's a digital vinyl, right? Like there's power to, I own that CD, that album, right?
Yeah. So wait, so they do have multiple NFTs of this album?
They have tiers of it. There is one tier that if you buy it, you also get free concert tickets for life, which...
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I imagine that's pretty expensive, though. It wouldn't be like, I'm going to buy an album for like what, like $29?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
it's
don't...
more than $29, isn't it?
I bet, if I had to guess. Yeah. So I think it's great that it is a way for artists to finally easily get the financial recognition they deserve, because up until now it's been mostly I'll pay you in visibility, I'll pay you and by retweeting you clout. Yeah. Which that's nice too, but also like dinner is also nice, right?
Yeah, like turns out we still have to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Surprisingly, that's not something that the internet has been able to solve yet.
Yeah.
The problem of having to eat. But I do want to point out that there's a dark side to this in terms of, it already sucks when artists see their art being reposted without attribution, and seeing that get, more social media traction than what they have posted to their own social media. I can't imagine the sting of seeing your art reposted and then sold for $60,000 as an NFT, which is exactly what's happening to an artist who goes by Ardnex on Instagram. She's an Indonesian artist. Her name is Kendra, which Ardnex is Kendra backwards plus an S. I thought that was clever. And there's this... this is mostly taking place on Nifty Gateway, which is a site that has served as a marketplace for NFT art. And there's a user on there called Twisted Vacancy that has been making art very, very similar to Kendra's, if not outright copying and pasting some parts of it. And there's a lot to be said for like taking inspiration or, using that as a reference. But there's parts that are just like you trace the line work. And that's a big no in the art world, as you might imagine.
Yeah, that's like sampling a song in your song and not crediting them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they've Twisted Vacancy and Ardnex have talked about this in DMs that have now gone public, as far as saying like, yeah, I took inspiration, but I used different hex values than you, so you can't get me on plagiarism. Cool, thanks. But
you're still a piece of shit.
Yeah. Because of this, the art that has been plagiarized, or the pieces that maybe are original but are heavily inspired by Kendra's art, the value has gone down significantly. So these pieces that had previously sold for like $600, like art or buyers on this Nifty Gateway marketplace are trying to get rid of it for much lower prices, for like $70 a pop for this NFT of like, it's cool art. It's really cool art. But now it is tainted because it's plagiarized.
Right. And this thing's even worse because now it's attached to literal actual money.
Right. And money that, Kendra didn't get to see.
Yeah.
Until someone was like, hey, this looks a lot like your art. Are you going by a different username? And it's like, no, what?
Oh.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be one of the growing pains with crypto art, I think, right? Because eventually, ideally, it'd be great to get to a place where before you mint a piece of art, you can somehow prove it was your work, right? Like that would be tops. That'd be ideal.
Yeah, because people are even doing it to tweets. They're like being like popular tweet number 874 from like the Doritos brand, or like famous tweets that messed up or whatever, and people are just like making those into NFTs without ever contacting the original person that tweeted it.
You know what it sounds like is it sounds like the beginning of the .com era, when a bunch of people were just buying up a shitload of URLs and then selling them to the companies that actually wanted them. Yeah. It's
just like everyone wants a piece of the pie, right? And then again, it's a very
delicious pie.
Yeah. But with that dark side, right, I think there's still a really positive side of the artists who do get their credit. Like look at Beeple, right? Like Beeple's set for life. And after working his ass off for 13 plus years doing his digital art, to finally have the technology in place for him to not only be recognized, but also now financially secure and recognized, like that is really cool. I don't want to detract from that. However, there's a lot of this that also just feels like rich people who need to throw their money at something.
And that's always what art collecting's been. So
yeah, and like, I think there is something neat and interesting about art collecting, but this feels just that it's an iota away from physically owning the print or the painting, right? Like this is a token that is attached to that digital art that I can now own. And I don't know, maybe I'm not rich enough, but I can't wrap my head around why that is really, really cool to me as a person to own that token. I can understand why it's cool to support the artist, right? And like support them and say, hey, I think your art's cool and I'd like you to keep doing it. And I'd like you to also be financially secure. So I'd like to buy that digital art for X amount of money, right? Like I understand it with that angle. I do not understand I'm going to drop $3 million on a tweet.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have too much money and you have to get rid of it in creative ways. And this is one of them.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it definitely feels like I want to be someone that owns a part of history just because fuck it, I'm rich enough. And like I can do that because why not? And I mean there's always been flashy shows of excess and wealth throughout history. So it's not really any surprise. It's just kind of a new take on that. It just feels all the more novel and pointless when it's something that's digital and can easily be viewed by literally anyone, anywhere, at any time.
It's kind of the opposite situation of like what happens with museums. It's almost like all this art is already in the museum, but usually the way that museums get a hold of like these artifacts and art is by contacting private collectors and being like, would you donate this so that the public can see it too? Where in this case, it's like the public's already seeing it, but then a private collector comes in and is like, I want it.
Yeah. I mean, it's literally Indiana Jones. It's like it belongs in a museum instead of these thieves that are trying to steal it and sell it to private collectors for a shitload of money.
Right. Because like I totally understand the historical context of Jack Dorsey's first tweet, because that's like the first tweet, right? And that, for better or worse, has put us on this new path of humanity, and it has truly affected what we do now as human beings. So it's definitely something that I'd like to see preserved in some way, shape, or form for future generations to be able to look back and say, look, that's the thing that destroyed the world. But I don't think it's something that should be bought for $3 million of all things. I could understand buying a digital painting for 3 million because like that had to be specially created with someone's unique talent and skills. Jack just typed some shit out on a thing he built that then millions more people typed out on the same thing that he built, right?
Yeah, and to be fair, what part of it too is just like where the money's going and how it's being used. Like, so was it Jack who got that money then? How does that work?
I think so.
Okay.
Also,
well,
on Twitter.
I guess in some sense, I guess it depends on like how I guess he turns around and uses that money. Because it's like if dude who bought said tweet spends that money and then it turns around and being used for charity, then it's charity, you know.
Mhm.
But I don't know.
But some cases we can just never know.
Yeah.
It's just like the money is gone. It has been spent.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think an easier target to me is like the NBA hotshot thing. Because it's like, I mean, I might be coming from a more ignorant point of view because I don't sports much. That's not really something that like speaks to me as a human, but I can understand wanting to see like the greats perform. You know, there's something inspiring about, you know, watching one of the best basketball players of all time do basketball really well. Same with baseball, hockey, etc. Right? Like, there's a reason why people know the name Wayne Gretzky, and it's not just because of that Office quote, right? Like, Wayne Gretzky,
That's the Office quote.
That probably contributes a lot to it. But I mean, he's a legendary hockey player, like literally the best hockey player ever. And because people know that, more people are inspired to play hockey, enjoy hockey, do hockey, train, and try to be the next best. And there's something really fascinating about that. I don't know if it's fascinating to say I own that GIF of Michael Jordan doing a dunk. I don't see the value or the monetary value in that necessarily.
Yeah, and
also,
like I don't know if it's a thing
money,
where it's just like it's new.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like
Where does the money go? Would the person pictured or videoed or whatever in the GIF or the highlight,
Mm-hmm.
would that money be going to them because that was their performance in that moment, or would it be going to the NBA? I don't know.
Yeah, because like to Daily Sweat, it's like kind of you could almost make an argument that you're buying a service in a sense. You know what I'm saying? Like you're buying the action in which this person, I don't know, dunked a basketball or hit a goal or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very strange.
Pay you $5 to make a dunk right now,
Mm-hmm. And then I'm gonna film it and then make an NFT of it.
I'll dunk on,
and then I'm gonna make $5 million off of that.
I'll dunk on Boris Johnson because he's basically just UK Trump.
Oh yeah, he's even got the bad hair. I mean, it's true. Have you seen him?
Don't trust people with bad hair, I guess? Question mark.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean they're basically both just one step away of having one of those evil villain twirly mustaches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't.
That's where it went instead. It's on the top of their head instead of on their upper lip.
Right, it's like got that evil curl at the top too. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot with NFTs that I think. I mean, maybe I'm just skeptical, and we're just in an early part. Like, it's early days for NFTs, right? Like, they're not as established in like the mainstream culture. Because maybe a lot of people were asking these same questions when, you know, art auctioneering first became a thing. Like, why would anyone spend millions of dollars on that Monet painting? Like, it's just pretty colors, right?
Yeah. I mean,
so
all of this is just evolving so fast. Like, a lot of people still don't even understand Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, let alone like going beyond that and understanding, you know, blockchain and then now NFTs. Like, I still don't fully understand it. And I'm a fucking, I don't know, millennial, I guess, tech bro guy.
Yeah. I like to think of myself as pretty well educated on the up and up of things involving technology, but the one thing about NFT and about Bitcoin and the blockchain as a whole that still makes me hesitant is the environmental impact when we're at such a crucial point in our history. Like, remember when it was like, you got 11 years to turn this around? Many of those years have passed.
Yeah.
We have less than 11 years now. And create the carbon footprint of creating NFTs and maintaining the blockchain, there's a lot of servers running and running and running and doing nothing but running, and that has an impact.
Yeah, and so it's weird in that, like, the slight distinction is it's not necessarily like NFTs that are generating the big carbon footprint. It's the blockchain itself and how the blockchain works, right? So this is probably the most technical I'm going to get about it. But so there's proof of stake blockchaining and proof of work. Those are the two different ways to verify whatever's on the blockchain, right? Because the whole point of a blockchain is that it's an independent way to verify something. That's why Bitcoin works, right? Because you can't just say I have 2 million Bitcoin. Like, someone has to look at your wallet, which then taps into the blockchain that then says, yeah, Jill has 2 million Bitcoin, right?
Hell yeah.
And yes, Daly's mom.
Yep.
Daly's mom has 2 million Bitcoin.
Yep.
Please, if anyone wants to make that a reality, just anonymously, that'd be cool.
Yeah, just donate it. PayPal.me/Jill.
Yeah.
/Jill. That's it.
She got in there real quick, real early, so she got Jill and only Jill.
Yep. I don't even think PayPal does Bitcoin, if I remember right. But so that's how the blockchain works. So right now, primarily, most blockchains run on proof of work, which is, you may have heard people describe blockchain as a bunch of supercomputers doing a lot of math problems. That is very, quick way to describe it, and not technically accurate, but it's close enough. That's essentially what they're doing, is a lot of computing to quote unquote mine a Bitcoin, right? And that's what proof of work blockchaining is. And that is what's taking a ton of energy, but it's also what is verifying the NFTs. It's verifying Ethereum coins. It's verifying Bitcoin, Dogecoin, all of that shit. There's also proof of stake, which I don't understand at all, but it takes less resources. It takes like a fraction of the resources of proof of work. The problem is most people need to agree to use that proof of stake, or else it doesn't work. In the same way, most people need to agree that $1 is $1, or else it doesn't work, right? So if more people use proof of stake ways to verify things on the blockchain, the environmental impact wouldn't be as bad, which would be nice, especially because all these NFTs are doing are basically being billionaire playthings.
Isn't it? It has to be some sort of intentional irony that the action of getting Bitcoin and other things is called mining, right? Because this is essentially like the new oil industry. If you think about it, it's taking a shitload of energy to do, which in part gets rid of a lot of our non-renewable resources. A lot of billionaires throwing money around. It's just like, we're basically just, okay, we're slowly getting rid of the oil industry, for hybrid and electric cars, and now we're burning a lot more energy
replacing it.
Yeah, more rich people to make more money, and the rich get richer, and it's just an endless cycle, and we're gonna kill the environment, and our planet's gonna die.
Yeah, and for reference, I believe, which this was one of the first resources we went to for figuring out what the fuck was NFT, and they stole our WTF as NFT. There was a Vox podcast, which we can link in the doobly-doo. But it was like, I believe the quote was, the amount of power being used to like maintain the blockchain and do that kind of stuff is like surpassing what it takes to power the country of Libya for a year. That's a country.
Yeah, like with a lot of people in it.
With people in it.
And businesses.
Televisions, hair dryers.
Guys, people are making money, so it doesn't matter. As long as people are making money, we're going to keep killing the planet. It doesn't matter.
He's got a point, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, and that's I think the interesting thing is that because with where we are right now, with how the environment works, or how our relationship with the environment works, the more energy we use, the more we're destroying it, right? Now, had we, I don't know, alternate history, elected Al Gore in 2000, cared a little bit more about the environment 20 years ago, maybe started doing this plan to push renewable resources 20 years ago, maybe we'd all have electric cars by now. No, maybe we'd have flying cars. It'd be Jetsons. Who knows? But if everything had been replaced with renewable energy, wind, solar, whatever, right? I think this wouldn't be as big of an issue, even though, yes, it is a huge energy hog. At least the energy hog isn't necessarily destroying the earth. It's just taking up more energy that could be used to play Xbox, you know, which that wouldn't be so bad. And it would be nice to maybe see all of this money that's being made maybe go to climate change action, because you'd at least be kind of offsetting it. I know Beeple is kind of doing that with some of his money. But for where it is right now, I feel like NFT is something we don't necessarily need in the moment. And the cost of it is really high. I mean, financially and environmentally.
Yeah. The planet doesn't have the luxury of like, let's have another random thing that is comparable to, like Colin was saying, like oil companies as far as impact. And it's like, we can't afford this at the moment. Maybe like if we figure out like nuclear fission or whatever, like totally renewable energy, then we can talk. But right now, not so much.
Who's going to be the new Rockefeller? I mean, it's pretty much just Bezos and Musk, but you know,
Muskafeller.
Yeah.
Muskmelon.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's such a shame because I think NFTs do hold a lot of potential, like beyond art and proving you have billions of dollars. Because could you imagine everything on the phone, everything digital, right? Your license on your phone, because you have an NFT that says, yes, this is my license. And it says, I am this old. Please give me that beer. Thanks. And that's it. You don't need the physical card anymore. I mean, you could if you want. Obviously, I don't think we're going to, in our lifetimes, go to a world where people will feel comfortable about not owning a card that identifies them. But that's a possibility. That's what NFTs could do. Or imagine an NFT for the deed to your car or the title, right? The title of your car. So you don't need to keep something locked away in a fireproof box that you're going to forget about. You can just have it on your Google Drive or something, right?
Yeah.
Have a record.
Yeah, it's a digital record, so it's a lot easier to store and find. Same with, you know, deed to your home, deed to other big things, deed to your business, right? Like there are these documents that we need to keep in real life that are very important and identify things. And the NFT could be the next step in digitizing those documents without the risk of any schmuck could copy it or edit it and make it say whatever, right?
Right. I mean, and to be fair, a lot of those things, like usually if you have an agreement, for instance, with like a real estate company that you own said house or like a bank, what have you, usually there is some sort of digital record of those things in case you do lose whatever. But to have that in your own accord, and if something happens, like there is an EMP that knocks out the fucking world's infrastructure, you have the NFT of that document saved somewhere on a hard drive, and it is like guaranteed, like there's no frills about it. This is, yes, in fact, like the deed to my house that I own. Yeah.
Like that would be very cool. But I also don't want to destroy the world for that.
Yeah.
Also,
the world's nice.
I feel like if we get real fucky with NFTs and like insurance or something, I feel like there'd be something really weird there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the Geico Gecko gets into NFTs.
Oh, yeah. Save 15% or more on your next NFT. I don't know, because I think the possibilities are endless. This is the first real way we can make something digital unique, make it something you can own, because that hasn't really been, like, no one owns a SpongeBob GIF, no one owns the blinking white man GIF, right? Because it's just there and people use it. I'm not saying that GIFs should be owned, because I feel like that'd be really weird and get into a lot of murky spaces. But, you know, it'd be something that would help us create another layer of security online, you know, to make it a more livable, usable world for us.
Yeah, well, and it's just the way that our society is going. We're digitizing and making a lot more convenient a lot of the everyday adulting processes, like buying a house, buying a car, buying whatever it is, you know. And so being able to do all that digitally on the positive side, it's basically helping our society go even more paperless than it already has. You know, because eventually, you know, if we as a society are able to go almost completely paperless, you know, I mean, that's just going to save a lot more trees and stuff like that. A lot in the environment.
So the wildfires can catch them.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. So it's like it hurts and helps the environment at the same time, guys. I don't know.
I can imagine that article coming out when like I'm in my 50s. It's like, because of our paperless society, there are more trees to burn.
Well, right now
in the annual wildfires.
Exactly. But right now the articles would be like, are millennials killing paper?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Yeah.
We're killing paper. We're killing Bob Evans. We're killing Cracker Barrel. We're killing it.
Yep.
As I like to say.
What restaurant should we kill next, guys? Because I know we've talked about this before. We got to choose another one.
The millennial agenda, yes.
Olive Garden.
Oh.
But when you're there, you're family.
Fuck family.
I can't kill my family.
Honestly, I feel like Olive Garden has been like off in the corner, like just kind of whistling, like we're just here, guys. Don't mind us. We're just.
You're saying they're being conspicuously unproblematic.
Yeah, they're just like, you know, no one's really. Listen, I think it's just their breadsticks. Their breadsticks are saving them right now.
That's it, because like their salad dressing isn't bad, but their food, their pasta, that's not pasta, y'all. Have real pasta one day.
It's the soup, salad, and breadsticks. That by the grace of their soup, salad, and breadsticks, we shall spare the Olive Garden from our millennial wrath.
I'm just saying, listen, the chips and dips at Chili's, pretty good. Not gonna lie, it's pretty good stuff.
Yeah, it's good airport food. But I think that wraps up our discussion here on NFTs. You know, it's new technology. I'm sure the world will learn and see it used a lot more in the next few years. But it's just another example of the internet clashing with culture and reality and life. And I don't know. I think it's just something that was worth covering. You know, something worth talking about and understanding a little more of.
Yeah, it was nifty.
God forbid we have a worldwide EMP and just takes out. I just keep thinking about that.
You're freaking me out, dude. Yeah, Stop it.
You're really on this worldwide.
I'm just saying, like, the more and more.
Do you know something we don't?
The more and more we go digital, I'm just saying it's more and more of a threat. You know what I'm saying? The minute we don't have internet, like, you don't have access to a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? Like, it already sucks bad enough when your power goes out or your internet's down, or your internet's even slow, and you're like, oh my God. Now I'm realizing how much of my life centers around being fucking connected via a series of wires to the rest of the world.
Yeah, it's called society.
Colin's having an existential crisis, and that's okay.
Yeah,
we're allowed to have those. It's a pandemic.
You know, can I just say, though, I'm glad that we went the full, I don't know, hour, and none of us made and this podcast is going to be an NFT now, guys. We didn't make that joke. Because I've heard that joke a lot.
That said, this is now an NFT. Joe Rogan's going to make something into an NFT, an episode. I'm calling it. I call it. You owe me money, some amount of money.
Can he digitize DMT so he can make his DMT an NFT?
Oh my God. I'm waiting. When are they going to start making individual subreddits into NFTs?
Or you need an NFT for a membership pass to join this. Actually, okay,
oh my God.
But that would be kind of cool. I mean, maybe not for Reddit, but like, that's like a speakeasy online.
That's like, there's apps that are like, they're like $2,000 a pop, and the entire app experience is just knowing that you had the money to buy the app.
Or it'd be like Clubhouse exclusive.
OnlyFans.
It'd be like
NFT OnlyFans products.
Yeah, that is a thing, right? Like, why you could do that? NFT your JPEGs and videos
and feet pics.
Yep.
Oh my God.
And
NFT cat videos.
And feet pics.
Stands for not
non-feedable
non-feedable
tokens. And that's where we're ending this episode. So we hope you enjoyed our weird little discussion on NFTs. We hope you learned something, and or maybe this made you think a little bit more about what ownership could mean in the digital age that we are staunchly in the middle of and that we're all enjoying. If you have any comments, concerns, thoughts, if you have your thoughts on NFTs that you want us to maybe talk about, or if you have questions for us, you can email those to everythinginpod@gmail.com, or you can tweet at us at everythinginpod, or leave a comment down below if you're on YouTube. Additionally, next week we're going to talk about super straights, which is a dumb movement online. It's really, really stupid. If you are curious, feel free to Google. If you have questions you want us to talk about in that episode, shoot them our way. We would be interested to know what you guys think of that as well. Other than that, I think that should be a wrap for us this week. Thank you so much for listening and for downloading and supporting us. I think it's really rad that we just have people who listen to us. I think it's really cool. I still wrap my head around that every now and then. So enjoy your weekend, and we will be back next week.